Hey guys, it's Mitch. How's it going? So we just finished up watching some fun, thoughtful sci-fi adventures by Walt Simonson. So I thought it might be a good idea to check out the trailer park version of that. So we're looking at Erik Larson's Savage Dragon number 4 today. So just before we get into that, if you enjoy the channel, if you feel like you might want to help out a little bit, what you can do is in the description, there's a link to my Patreon. And if you subscribe there, that'll give you access to everything I do, from the Blood Force stuff, the finished pages and comics, to the YouTube videos before they go out to YouTube, as well as some Patreon exclusive content. So what's been happening in Savage Dragon before this? Man, I do not remember. It has been a little while, and it wasn't super memorable. It was fun, at least. And calling it the trailer park version of a comic, I mean, you know, it's kind of trashy, a little bit. I mean, you can tell right from the cover, as soon as we get into it, it's going to be smashing, it's going to be TNA, it's going to be big guns, and it's good, well, I was going to say it's no backgrounds, but, you know, Erik Larson has no problem with drawing backgrounds, at least. But yeah, I think one thing we can say about Savage Dragon is it isn't subtle. It's a pretty good cover, at least. I mean, you know, it's not exactly a classic or anything. You know, I don't think anybody thinks, oh yeah, remember that Savage Dragon number 4 cover? It's a better version of a Liefeld cover, it feels like, really. Where you get big hulking dudes and hot babes posing with improbable guns. And probably Savage Dragon is off in the corner somewhere. That's how Liefeld usually goes, right? Alright, so I feel like it'll be pretty easy to go through the list of creators on this. Although, for some reason, everybody's squeaky in this issue. I'm not sure what that's about. Inside joke, I suppose. So, we're going to open up here, and Dragon is arriving on the scene. Some officers have discovered a house where the residents have died, and there is something horrifying in the basement. So they call in their big, super-powered guy to go check it out, because that's what he's for. All fine-looking stuff, kind of typical setup stuff. Nothing particularly stand out. But we do get our page 2-3 splash, at least. Not one of the more exciting ones, but it's not that kind of start to an issue. So what Dragon finds in the basement is this lizard girl, who's been chained up, and is malnourished, and just gets a TV and like a little dog dish. And you get the feeling this was her life before just now. Interesting shot. Crazy fucking stairs. Nice lighting in here, though. Like, kind of subtle in some areas, how it's, you know, like, this is obviously off of this, you know? Like, just looking at it, it is very plausible. It's pretty well realized, actually. So, Dragon came down with his giant, ridiculous gun, ready for a fight, but he just needs to take one look to see that she's in no shape to hurt anybody. So, he's going to break her loose and bring her up. And we're going to get sort of an Erik Larson staple, where he calls out the police officers for not really looking into it and just assuming that she's a threat because she's a freak. He kind of does this a lot, and it feels like it feels almost like he's calling out somebody specific, but I can never think who it is. It just feels like he's calling out his own characters sometime. Like, you fucking asshole. It's like, well, you know, you made that guy. So, flipping back to Chicago now, Lieutenant Frank Darling is picking up his wife from the hospital. So, she's had an accident recently at the mall where she was using the escalator, somebody bumped into her, and she fell down and broke her leg. And Frank is kind of fussing over her, and she's like, no, it's fine. It's fine, right? Is there some reason I should think it isn't fine? And there is, of course, because Frank is in deep with some bad people, and they're letting him know that they're not happy with how things are turning out right now. And at that point, they're interrupted by Dart, who was introduced a couple of issues ago, and wants to introduce herself to, you know, the dude in charge on the police force, who seems to be super freak. And then there's a lot of and then we're gonna cut to in this. There kind of always is in a Savage Dragon comic. We don't get a lot of sustained time with any one scene. I'm not sure if that's good or not. But we're cutting to the lizard girl that Dragon rescued earlier, who's doing a lot better since, you know, she's actually been able to get her some food in her. And it's, you know, it's a little gratuitous just dressing her in a bikini. That said, he did cover her with spikes. So, you know, like, putting actual clothes on her probably wouldn't stay on her either. So, I suppose that's fine. And the captain is very excited by having another freak on the force. And, you know, once she's fully recovered and she's trained up, man, she's going to be something else. We're going to be able to have like a whole team eventually. And Dragon doesn't like that he's planning this far in advance for her. Trying to be a good guy. Dragon's usually doing that kind of thing. It's just so hard, though, when every girl wants to sleep with him. It's so tough. This, of course, is Amanda Mills, who's the girl he rescued in Savage Dragon #1, I think it was. And she's been trying to play the fawning, appreciative damsel who wants to reward him, wink wink, for saving her life, but Dragon's not having any of that. He doesn't see any kind of actual relationship between them, considering he doesn't really know her. It's nice that she's hot, but all the hot girls want me anyway. You're not special. And she keeps pushing. He points out the last girl he was in a relationship with ended up with her brains blown out. So maybe it's not a good idea for him to get involved with regular women, at least not right now. But we get the impression, of course, that she's not going to just take that and walk away. She's going to come back because she's got to get that dragon. And this is all, just clear storytelling in terms of the panel-to-panel storytelling. Nothing's stand out, but nothing is unclear. So that is good. So now we're going to cut again. These have all been pretty much like one-page scenes for a while. Where Dart and the captain and Dragon are all meeting. And again, the captain is very excited at the prospect of starting up a super freak unit in the police force. And he starts throwing out names of dudes that they could maybe recruit, like that Star guy or Mighty Man. And Dragon again gives Dart shit for saying she saw Mighty Man, because Mighty Man's supposed to be dead. And Dragon also remembers these two freaks he ran into. I think it was at the end of #1 of the regular series. But before he can elaborate, they get told about some super freaks going at it. That's how it's described. That's how the police talk. So, Dragon and Dart rush to the scene. And we get a big old leap into action splash page. Which is a fine splash page. I have no real problems with it. It's nothing above and beyond, though. This is the kind of the thing that I start to notice about Erik Larsen around this time, is I think he's trying very hard to stay on schedule. The miniseries had a lot of delays, and there have been a couple of delays in between the first 3 issues. I think he wants to get to a point where he's the reliable one at Image. But what that means, of course, is that he's got to go a lot faster on the pages, which means that the pages suffer. The art isn't as good. I mean, it can't be. And I think that philosophy is kind of carried over all these years. I mean, on the one hand, no, Dragon doesn't look nearly as good as it did. I don't think it's ever looked as good as it did in the miniseries. That was as good as the book ever looked. On the other hand, there's no way Erik Larsen passes 250 fucking issues, put out pretty much all by himself. He's got his crew, but he's always been the writer. He's always been the artist. That doesn't happen for 250 issues if he doesn't make changes to his style. And we get a double-page splash. This is, a lot of splashes in this one. And this is Barbaric and Ricochet, who are the freaks we met at the end of issue 1. And they're going at it with a giant pimple dude. And this is the level of villain we could expect in a Savage Dragon book. Sometimes. I think sometimes it does go... Yeah, I think it's all over the place, really. But Erik Larsen has no problems putting in just like joke villains all the time. Again, decent splash, though. As far as, I want to put a double-page splash in my book, totally justified. It's a pretty good shot. Didn't spend any more time on it than he had to. If anything, it feels like there's a little less rendering on here than there probably should be, compared to even, the previous scenes. But, there's nothing out of place here. Nothing even looks that rushed. And we're going to get an Erik Larsen fight scene. So everything's going to be okay from here. So Barbaric gets swept aside by, this is Cesspool, by the way, the pimple monster guy. Good shot. Love the motion here. Gets a big old smack in the face from Dragon, and then I guess spits acid at him. Seems to be what's going on. And he's got Ricochet in a pretty tight hold, so the only one left is Dart. And Dart doesn't do much except throw darts. So she throws a bunch of darts at him. And Cesspool replies with standard supervillain dialogue. You know, crummy darts don't mean a thing to Cesspool. You're worthless, and that ain't all. You're dead. And she keeps throwing darts at him over and over again throughout the course of this. And apparently it catches up because Cesspool gets popped. Which is fucking repulsive. You know what's funny? It feels like the detail is a little higher in this one. Like, he spent some time on this. He thought this was pretty great. It's, you know, and it's a fine drawing. It's just fucking gross as shit. So, yeah, Cesspool is done for this fight. He's left just lying in a pile of pus. And now that the fight is over, Savage Dragon is going to take this opportunity to extend the offer from the Chicago Police Department to Barbaric and Ricochet, because they got to form that team. That team is going to be so awesome. And at first, Barbaric isn't too sure, because, like, you know, they're homeless people, and they're a little mistrustful of outsiders. Ricochet's like, yeah, I don't like being homeless. We're in. So they go back to the station house. They shake hands with the captain. Everybody's having a good time, except for Cesspool, who's complaining about excessive force and says he's going to sue. Because you can't stab a dude with fucking darts. You can spit acid on him, but darts are just a step too far. And everything's going swell, and then the captain asks Ricochet how old she is. And that's the question that just always ruins the party, right? Which immediately turns Ricochet off from the Chicago Police Department, and she's gonna leave, which I assume means she's underage. And she bounces off down the street. Barbaric's kind of stuck there on his own. And we're gonna end with little old lady who's on a bus somewhere, and she's going to Chicago to see her little boy, who she hasn't seen in a long time. And he's a policeman, you know. And if we recall, he was in, I think it was, the Dragon miniseries, issue 3. Where she was convinced that Dragon was her son. And the letters are upside down because this is a flip book. Da-na-na. So now we get a Rapture and Ricochet adventure, which is eye-rolling, but it does give us a chance to look at some early Adam Hughes art. So that's cool. So this is written by Eric Larson, penciled by Adam Hughes, inked by Carl Kessel. Interesting mix. And we're going to start with Rapture in an alley here. And Rapture's deal is that, I guess this is the first time we're seeing Rapture, thinking about it. I was kind of going into this thinking like, oh yeah, okay, so we've introduced her, now we got to see her solo adventure. I don't think we've introduced her. I think this is the first time, yeah. So Rapture's a hooker, but she's lucked into some electricity powers. So now she's through being terrorized by her pimp. Now it's time for her to do the terrorizing. And we got Ricochet up here, monitoring the situation. It's a great shot, like great opening splash kind of thing. Good angle. Everything looks like it's where it should be. But I mean, that is like just kind of Adam Hughes' thing, where everything just kind of looks like an idealized version of how it is. He's not quite there in some instances in this particular sequence. But, you know, like I said, this is very early in his career. And Ricochet intervenes at this point because she can't just stand by while Rapture is going to kill a dude, even if he is her pimp. And Rapture tells her to get lost, and she's just going to continue on with it. So Ricochet has to intervene, does her big leap in. This is all okay, but big kick to the face. That looks great. Rapture responds with a lightning shot thing. Again, looks amazing. So even this early on, Adam Hughes was a hell of an artist. So this is 93. Adam Hughes would have been about 26 at the time. So Ricochet alights on the ladder here, leaps off when Rapture tries to zap her again, catches her in, I guess, like a Hurricane Rana kind of thing. and flips her over. Nice motion again. And Rapture isn't moving now. And for a second, Ricochet is worried that she may have done something kind of permanent. But Rapture's just playing possum, waiting for her to get close, and zaps her so that she can turn her attention back to her pimp. But it's a little late now, because Rodney here has drawn his gun. And Rapture's kind of stuck with nowhere to go. Dude takes a shot. Luckily, he's not a very good shot, so I think he just grazes her shoulder here. And she responds by immediately zapping him where he stands. And we have that kind of badass walking forward with the lightning shooting out your hands kind of deal. It's alright. Ricochet tries one last time to talk her out of it. But Rapture looks like her mind is made up. And gears up for one last attack. I think I remember how this goes. Oh, Ricochet dives in, grabs her arm, zaps her off her. That is a tough angle to make a woman look good in, but he pulled it off, I think. That's kind of impressive. And Ricochet tries again, one more time, to talk her out of it. Because in a book scripted by Eric Larson, we are never above laboring the point. But I think she's done appealing to her altruistic side, and she's just like, look, you know what? If you kill this guy, then you're going to spend your entire life running from the law, facing a jail sentence, maybe having to kill me to get rid of witnesses. And, you know, your life is kind of going to have to change because of that. And Rapture decides, fuck, that is a good argument. Shit, okay, I'm not going to do it. And she turns her back on Rodney one more time, who picks up his gun again. It kind of feels like the last couple of pages are redundant now. Takes another shot. Great panel. Feels maybe modeled, but I mean, that's the case with a lot of Adam Hughes' stuff, where it's like, I don't know how much is just in his head and how much he just, you know, he does these models for. And I guess he didn't shoot in the right spot this time. It looks like she manages to, with one shot, blow up his foot and his head. And now her and Ricochet are buddies, and they're going to wander back to the Chicago station house, probably so that Rapture can join Freak Force. Great page, though. This leap in, again, the movement is fantastic. That's a tough angle. And, you know, like, to force the perspective right is that's impressive. Again, a lot of what Adam Hughes does is very impressive. And yeah, Freak Force #1 is coming out, I guess, next month. This is, oh, it's supposed to be same month. September, 93. We've also got Vanguard coming out and Super Patriot by Dave Johnson, I think. Yeah, that is such an awesome looking book. And yeah, so that's going to do it for Savage Dragon #4. It's fine. It's a lot like a lot of Savage Dragon books in that there's an awful lot of setup. Not much payoff in this particular issue. A lot of stuff does culminate in issue 7, so there's that. But the standard thing in a Dragon book is, like, we're going to set up, like, 3 or 4 things. We're going to have another 4 or 5 things just kind of play out a little bit. And then we're going to have, like, a 2 or 3 page fight. Just so that nobody complains too much. How many pages were in this series, actually? Well, that's 16 pages. So we didn't quite have enough for a full issue, but coupled with the Rapture backup thing, that's, you know, I mean, the fact he kept it to his standard 245, that's pretty good. So yeah, that's Savage Dragon #4. Not one of the more memorable issues. You know, nothing is bad, though. It's like, if this was coming out at the time, you picked it up, you go, yeah, okay, that's okay. I'm just kind of waiting for something interesting to happen. So I guess we'll keep waiting for now. That's going to do it for this one. Thanks very much for watching. If you like this video, please hit like, hit subscribe, hit the notification bell so you know when the next one's coming out. Go over and subscribe on my Patreon. That'll give you access to everything I do, from the Blood Force pages and the finished comics, to these videos before they make it out to YouTube, as well as some Patreon exclusive content. You can also follow me on Instagram and DM me there for commissions. I like to do a little follow-up thing on these if I can. Unfortunately, it was kind of a nothing book. Hopefully the next one's better. But yeah, that's going to do it for this one. Thanks again for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.